I would like now everyone, including Brian, to please switch on your webcams and join me for the discussion part. Eric, you're joining us, please? So, first of all, thank you everyone for your presentations, and I would like to start with Brian. Brian is not only the president of Eurovent Middle East, he also represents System Air, a large manufacturer of ventilation equipment, and also a manufacturer who is participating in many programs of Eurovent certification, and I'm sure also as your products do have a lot of UL marks. So my question to you, Brian, from a manufacturer's perspective, what is for you the advantage of having independent certifications? What are the main reasons to take them, and what are the misconceptions in the market about them?
Okay, I think the first and foremost, I think it's essential that the standards and the certification is there, and there's a knowledge of those standards and certifications within the market. Sadly, in some places that there is a lack of knowledge. I think a lot of the programs that Eurovent Middle East has put together are trying to educate and help and show and how those things can be used. And there are misconceptions that can come into the market. I know when I've traveled around the Middle East into many different places, the first question I get asked from a manufacturer's point of view of System Air is, are your air handling units manufactured, are they certified to Eurovent? The answer, of course, is yes. But people will put forward a Eurovent certification and say, yes, we have a certificate. You can check it on the website. But it depends on the casing strength, the thermal transmission, the filter bypass. There's 5 categories you've got to meet, and there's different levels within that. So one company can put forward a certificate that says X, and another company can put the same certificate forward that says X, but with lesser degrees of capability. And the client, the end user, the consultant, everybody has got to be aware of those things. But it's easily passed through. And I don't want to decry, and I'm not talking about competitors, I'm talking about standards. I was talking to an air handling unit manufacturer, not System Air, who I said, what is your standard thickness that you use for your panels? The answer I got was, well, what do you want? We can do 0.8, 1.2, we can do 1.6, we can do 1. How cheap do you want it to be? Now, if you've got a certification that says your casing strength is X based on a 1.2 thickness, and then you manufacture something that's a 0.8, but you still have a Eurovent certification, you're reducing that casing strength by 50% on one thickness. That's going to have an issue and a problem further down the road with leakage, collapsing. It could have a rust problem, anything could happen. So you have to ensure as an end user, a consultant, a contractor, that the correct certification, that what you as a manufacturer specify is actually being put forward. If you look at, for example, fans, EN 12101 Part 3 is a standard that is recognized throughout the industry. But that's a holistic standard for a fan, not the part of a fan, but a fan. If somebody, and within that standard, you have to specify the motor manufacturer, whoever that may be. Now, if somebody uses that certification but puts a different motor in there, and giving almost the same outputs, then that certification is non-compliant. But very often that's not checked and not used and not looked at. So from a manufacturer's point of view, the standards of the certification have got to provide a level playing field. Everybody's got to work with the same thing, but the honesty has got to be there with every manufacturer. And we assist them. Everything that we publish, all the data that we publish, is proven, tested, certified, and we stand by that. And I would ask that everybody else does exactly the same thing, because that's really important. We don't want products coming into the market that can rust or break or catch fire. So certification is hugely important. The right certification used in the right fashion.
Right. Stefano, what are certification organizations, certification bodies doing to prevent the abuse of issued certificates? Like Brian mentioned, that people have a product certified and then change the quality of the product down the line once the certification is received. How do you prevent that people place products on the markets who are then deviating from the certified?
Okay, yeah, thanks for the question. I guess it is really a good question, because the brand integrity, I guess it one of the most important thing that the certification body should confirm and maintain. As you know, every brand unfortunately is vulnerable today, especially in this connected world. So we need to protect our brand and the brand of our customer. How UL is doing this? First of all, we have an online database with all the products that are certified by UL and that are currently bearing a UL mark. On this database, so you can find components, compressor, filter, and so on, but also plastic material, but also end-use material, end-use equipment like chiller, air conditioner. So this database is accessible to everybody, and it is easy for anyone to understand if a product is certified or not. Just typing the model and the company, you can have a search and identify if this product is certified. This is the one of the first method. The second method we have is we have in place a follow-up service for each manufacturer of UL recognized product. So periodically we inspect the manufacturer facility to check that the product is still manufactured in compliance with the standard requirement. So we guarantee that the product is always the same and is not modified. And so it's the same as the one tested at the very beginning. Then we have a market survey program. So we have dedicated teams that are looking at what are the products inside the market and if they really could bear the UL mark. So there is an investigation team. If a product is identified and the marking should not be applicable because it was not evaluated, we open we have a public website. We open an alert on a public website, also on the Consumer Association website, where we clearly state that the model, the manufacturer, we provide picture of these counterfeited products. So everybody is aware that this product is not suitable to bear the UL mark. In addition, the same team is also looking at the advertising in internet. So anytime we see in internet a UL logo, UL word in the brochure or in the website, the team is looking if really this UL could be applied or not.
You also
So
Stefano, do you take legal action to find products manufacturers who are wrongly using the UL mark? Do you take legal action against such manufacturers?
I don't catch your question. Sorry, Mark. There is some noise. I don't know.
All right. Do you take legal actions against manufacturers which you identify abusing the UL mark?
Sure. We are taking a legal action. We have an advocacy system, an advocacy team. So all the action are taken. Just to give you some number, unfortunately, last year more than 3.8 billion of products were bearing a UL mark, and this was not suitable. So
3.8 billion.
yeah, exactly. So we are really need to be careful. We are looking on this. We have a big team. There is a website with all the manufacturers that are not able to bring the UL mark, and unfortunately, this is still happening.
Eric, how is Eurovent certification monitoring this problem?
So it's a very coming back to the explanation about the certification fishnet. What we try to do to have a correct efficiency of the fishnet, though being competitive, not rising too high the certification costs. Especially for holistic system like handling units. That's why selection software check is needed to be certified when, for example, you manufacture AHUs. It's mandatory. And then factory audits. It's a yearly practice. We expect to be clever when we make the audits. But of course, it's a matter of cost. The more the fishnet has narrow gaps, the more it costs. So it's a balance between clever audit from our side, clever analysis of the selection software, aside the real tests. Another way to fight against these people who use our certification mark, they should not, is coming from competitors. We have a website as well. You can declare this kind of situation. It's happened regularly. It's helped us to survey and to focus more on what is happening in what is a reality in these manufacturers that is a big risk for the stability of the ecosystem, for the trustability of the mark. So of course, it is one of the main threats that can happen to a certification scheme. And it is a typical case we address during the meeting of our steering committee, CPC, and we try to improve sometime during the certification committees, the program committees. We try to improve the gaps, the size of the gaps of the fishnet to address this situation.
I guess one of the most important aspects is to really educate oneself on a certification program to really understand what it is used for and how it should be handled. Because just looking at the logo on a product documentation will never be enough. You have to understand what is the documentation required beneath just the logo or the branding.
Yes. Normally, it should be used as it is. Prescription by end user, by investors should be, well, guy, in your project, I want a certified product by ISO 17065 accredited bodies, and that's it. For people coming from finance, from families who invest big monies, etc. So the prescription in our mind should come from this. So what is inside the certification? It's our duty to enable people to say, I want this prescription, I put this prescription to de-risk my investment. It doesn't get rid of the total risk. And what mentioned Brian is a part of the remaining risk. And coming then to specialists, so for MEP consultants, architects, or people involved in the technology, like ESCOs, you face technical people. We try now to improve the way we communicate on each certification program, and we have to we try to improve to educate the direct end user, the technical people who are using certification, what is certified, what is inside. So we have a lot to do to be more clear, to be more understandable by the market.
Brian, I have seen myself in a presentation in previous years where manufacturer introduced a new air handling unit, claiming all sorts of certifications for the air handling unit. Turns out only some components have been certified, like an air filter that's certified with UL, but on a safety perspective and not on the perspective of energy efficiency or filtration efficiency. Still, the manufacturer claim this is a certified unit. Do you see this such a conduct by manufacturers as endangering and as threatening to a playing field or to a competitor to your own doings at the market?
Okay, I mean, on component parts, you would sometimes hear certain components have got to be AHRI certified. That's important, but again, it comes back to the holistic thing that is actually the box that is tested and certified.
With all inside.
The parts are part of the overall unit. You have to test the overall unit. It's the same as a resistant or a fire resistant wall. You don't just test, say, the gypsum board or the structure or what's on the, you test the whole entity, because that's what's going to be your flame barrier. Yeah. You have to test the complete unit. That has to comply with the data that you have within your selection software. If you say your selection software, this is what this unit will actually produce, and then that box gets tested, it says that has produced exactly what your software said, then that's fine, that's acceptable. If that box does not comply with what your software says, then that's rejected. But then the software gets tested from a Eurovent point of view, or Eurovent certification point of view. The software gets tested and checked to ensure that you're still complying with exactly what you said you would do. So you test the complete. It's the complete unit. It's the same. It's the same. Let's go back to what the analogy with the car. There's certain output information that comes from the car, which is not correct. But the car as an entity is the moving unit. It's not the parts. It's the car as the complete unit. That's what's got to work. There may be parts within there that create problems. You have to find out where the problems are, identify those problems, and correct those problems. Then you go back to the complete unit again. And that's what's got to be put into the market. It's okay saying that we've got this, we've got an EC plug fan, we've got a certain type of filter that complies with this, and we've got a coil that complies with HRI XYZ. Doesn't matter. You have to put them in to make the unit better. You have to go to the highest level that you can with the component parts. They in themselves will make the unit better. They will provide better energy efficiencies. They will provide better indoor air quality and a better long life for the unit. But it's got to be tested in the correct way for the complete entity.
I have a question in regards to the ISO 17025 accreditation for laboratories. Why is that such a big thing, and why is it of importance that on a global level and also on a national level, if governments, authorities try to test products from the market, that they are watching out to follow accredited laboratories, or at least the same testing standards all around? Stefano.
Sure. Yeah, like I said during the presentation, so as a part of our activity as a certification body is testing. So testing is to be trustable, like a certification for sure, and trustable and with the quality. And this is achievable using laboratories that are assessed by external bodies. The way to access a laboratory is the use of ISO 17025. So ISO 17025 is the standard for the general competency of testing and calibration laboratories. Having a laboratory accredited ISO 17025 means that the laboratory is assessed, has a quality system in compliance with the standard, and has a technical system, so has all the competency, all the equipment, and everything to perform the activity in a correct way. So the way to assess a laboratory is always the same, because the main standard is the 17025. So every assessment body use the same standard, and it proves that the laboratory is working in a correct and with a quality way. The laboratory then is reassessed every year usually. So it's not just the first assessment, but every year the laboratory is continuously assessed by different members, accreditation members like Accredia in Italy, I don't know, COFRAC maybe in France. So this is guarantee. This guarantee, yes, the trustable and the quality of the test result.
But the test results need to be comparable among the laboratories. So it cannot be that I go to one laboratory and I get a different test result, then I would ship the same product be tested in a different way. Correct?
Sure. This for sure depend on the standard, on the scope of the laboratory. The testing could be comparable if you are using the same method. And for sure, testing laboratory will use international developed method, so usually the IC-based test method, or any other US standard, for example, or any other standard. So if the laboratory is using the same test method, then the results are really comparable. For sure, you cannot compare two different test methods.
Eric, you have mentioned in your presentation that more and more authorities or governments also make use of independent third-party certification if they are introducing incentivized programs where the end user can buy new equipment and gets subsidies from the government. The intention of such programs is, of course, to increase energy efficiencies of products which are in use. So it's a subsidized buying program or replacement program in order to bring higher efficiency, more efficient products into the market. Are third-party certification programs, should that be made more use accepted, or should be at least that a minimum requirement for incentive programs, that there is a trusted grounds to say that okay, these products are incentivized?
You hear me?
Yes.
Well, may I just need to implement the previous question, Stefano, please, just 10 seconds. Market surveillance, because to speak of a local test in each state to do market surveillance, it's not easy to do with holistic systems. Some thermodynamic system, I have in mind VRF systems, chillers, HUs. So it's a really real difficulty. It's like cars testing. Test labs are not enough for this kind of local labs, for this kind of holistic systems, if you don't apply a tough procedure like we design through our programs. So it's just to answer for complicated systems, it's difficult. That's why car industry in Europe derivated, because it was in the hand only of manufacturers and labs, even ISO 17025. It is a limit for very technical products and holistic systems. Okay, I cancel. Coming back to incentivization, states want to push, to initiate, to drive the money, to drive investment, to support their citizens to energy efficient systems, wherever in the world, through private financing, third-party private financing, ESCOs, or direct loans or gifts or whatever. The risk to open the field for money makers, for business people that are very far from, that don't sell really efficient products. States try to protect themselves, maybe by testings, but you have a big risk to have not to be able, when you're a state, to prevent your market from bad products. That's why certification, international, respected, already existing, experienced, mature certification scheme are really the only way for states. But it's the only way to promote, to drive investments, money on this kind of energy efficient systems. Coming back to what you say about the minimum efficiency, it's not our duty. We certified what is claimed by the manufacturers. Then it's a matter of the market, the offer, the manufacturer, to design what the market needs. So it's a matter of maps. We are not important for this process. We are just there, for example, to enable states to have a look of what are the standard efficiency of a market. For example, for ACs or for chillers, we have a cloud of performance. And so we can indicate them neutrally, not telling this is this company, etc., with neutral, because we own thousands and thousands of data. So we can support authorities, for example, to tell, well, if you put the maps too high, you will have 10% of manufacturers able to provide what you need. If you put too low, you will open your market to 100% of what is manufactured worldwide. So we can provide data, but it's only to support the decision of authorities. On the other hand, they have the label. The labeling, it's their duty to enable or to get rid of the market of what is under E or B or E or C, whatever. It's their duty. Our business is to ensure that what is the label that is put and the rating of the equipment, certified equipment, is trustable. Then it's a matter of, it's a decision of the authority to put money on a certain level of efficiency of equipment. But what is important is that they can trust with certified product. They can trust what is on the label.
I would like to move to the questions which we have received so far. I see there are some quite specific questions. I would kindly ask our audience to be a little bit more patient. We try to answer all the questions. The ones we cannot answer now during the live webinar, we will share with our speakers and along with your email address. So please expect that you will receive an answer to your question by email afterwards. Like for laboratories that have accreditation certificates from international accreditation bodies, what are the requirements? So what are the requirements behind 17025? That's a very specific question we can hand out. And maybe Stefan, you can then pass on a link for some kind of information. Now, I received the question, is the declaration letter from the manufacturer accepted during the technical evaluation and will replace the required testing? I believe that is a clear no, Stefano.
Yeah. So the declaration, unfortunately, especially for the UL world, but not only the UL world, but the certification in general, declaration is something we can consider for sure, because sometimes a manufacturer has more experience than everybody in doing what is producing. But we really need a third party, so someone else that can prove externally, so independent from the manufacturer, that can prove the reliability of the data the manufacturer is proving. So the self-declaration is not enough to achieve a certification. It could be used for sure, because it gives you a lot of insight and a lot of help for sure, but it is not really sufficient.
Okay. Another question, in which case in market surveillance we should destroy the failed products? I believe, Eric, if authority finds out that a product is not conform to the regulations, it is in every case a matter to withdraw the product or to have manufacturing firm to take the product out, right?
Yes. Coming to market surveillance, it's very difficult to do market surveillance wherever in the world. The problem is that if the testing protocol is not done with sufficient skillness, for example, for air systems, measuring the air side and putting the sensor or the sensors at the right place is needing, it is needed a strong skill. And so, for example, a product maybe cannot pass the test due to uncertainty of measurements. So it can be both helpful to fire the wrong products, but it can be dangerous when you are at the limit due to uncertainty of measurements and skills, etc. So that's why market surveillance can be unfair, because if you have the product, the one product who was really at the limit, at the lower limit, remember, we try to establish a fishnet that is efficient, but there are some limits. And when products face the limits, the lower limits of performance, plus uncertainty of measurement during the control by authorities, they can fire a product, a manufacturer, but it's for unfair reason. certification is more give a chance. The manufacturers have a chance to have a new test, to discuss. Yes, it's not a 0-1 situation. So market surveillance, for this reason, is not so easy to do, and it can lead to unfair situations. And it's a cost. I read, I don't remember. It's UNEP. It's a UNEP study that tried to evaluate the cost of what should be invested as test labs worldwide to enable stronger market surveillance for cooling systems. It's a really huge cost that they promote state by state to do a job that is not possible to do when you don't own the procedure that you have developed with the manufacturers. So the testing methods, the program by itself, the certification program, is not a simple test. So there is a understanding about the fact that it could be a good protection for each state to make its own testings. It's a big cost, so it's never done. What is the reality? That it's such a big cost. Labs do not exist enough. Of course, UL, for example, not only you, it's a part of your business, market surveillance authorities assistance. But it's not so easy for holistic systems to make measurements. I have in mind AHU. Do you know many labs worldwide that are able to conduct very accurate and measurement for AHUs? And what is the cost? So who order the cost? It's a citizen. So states don't have money to make this market surveillance of gated and holistic systems. That's why certification is really the only reasonable way to make market surveillance for holistic systems like chillers, VRF, AHUs, and I forget many.
Stefano, what would be the procedure if a certified product fails to comply during a market surveillance test?
Please, Mark, say it again.
What would be the course of action if a certified product would fail in a market surveillance test?
Okay, so here we have to distinguish about market surveillance. So depending on the service we are providing. So we have a market surveillance for the UL mark. So if we are talking about the safety mark, so in case during a factory inspection or surveillance, the product is checked and does not comply with the requirement of the construction, then the customer needs to remove all the products that were manufactured in the wrong way from the market, remove the logo, and then without the logo, the product can be sold again, but without the logo. The customer, in any case, has some time. We provided some time for the customer to do the additional testing if this modification require additional verification. So the marking could still be placed again after the additional testing we need to check. Regarding instead other activity not related to the application of the UL safety logo, but for example for the energy efficiency logo, then in case of a failure, all the product, all of the logo beared on this product needs to be removed, completely removed.
All right. Brian, as a last question in this panel now, if we look at the Middle East and we see that in so many countries we have different regulatory bodies who are requesting product certification based on national regulations, would global certification schemes like HRI, like UL, like Eurovent Certification make sense for the region as a whole, and but also for the local authorities, of course, to adopt those or to accept those certification from third-party ISO 17065 accredited organizations? Would that be a solution to this harmonization in the region?
I think overall that the individual countries within the GCC look at GS as a starting point and see what their standards are. I think if you incorporate or give the opportunity for each of the certification bodies, the standardizations, the HRI, AMCA, UL, Eurovent, all those people together, there's a mixture of thoughts and processes. Some's American, some's European, and some countries within the GCC are more bent towards American than they are European, and vice versa. What we have to do is blend those things together and make sure that the requirements for the country and the region are met within the standards and the certification that's available, and blend those things into that. But I think having an ISO certified laboratory as the basis to use, I think is an excellent way to go. And if you could get that in the region, even better. And then people don't have to spend all the money sending things out all over the world. So I would encourage people within the region to look at having a test lab, an ISO certified test lab within the region. But utilize, don't try and reinvent anything. Those standards have been around for a long time. And new standards are coming in to improve energy efficiencies, to improve indoor air qualities. Utilize the things that's available and blend them into the standards that they want for their specific country. And I know that Eurovent Middle East have talked to many bodies throughout the region, and I think that's what we try and encourage. And I think that's the direction that you have to go. Every country is different, and every country has to have their own rights of what they need. But utilize what's available and bring them into what can be used.
Okay, then thank you for your contributions today. If any one of the audience has further questions, first of all, please check. We have the presentations available for download as handouts, which you can find in the control panel of the GoToWebinar platform. We will also, of course, make these handouts available through our website for download. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to get in touch with the speakers, or you just send an email to the association, and we will forward your questions accordingly. All the questions which we could not and haven't yet answered, we will try to answer consecutively a little in the following days. We will share these questions with our speakers, and the speakers have the opportunity to get in touch with you and clarify these matters. So, gentlemen, I would like to thank you for your contribution, for your time today. I would like to go on with some final remarks. I think the takeaways of today are that third-party certification based on ISO 17065 is a very valuable alternative tool for market surveillance, specifically in regions where the market surveillance system is not very strong. The industry has such and makes use of such independent certification programs in order to stay in the market and stay competitive in the market. And I think that those tools are available, and they should be looked at also from a point of market surveillance. The next point to take away that certification programs need to be really correctly understood and always checked for availability. It's not enough to just see a logo on a product or a document. I need to go back and check if the document is actually still valid. We have seen that in the past, some manufacturers use outdated certification to convince buyers in the market that the product is still validly certified. So please do not mistake just a logo is a product follows certain standards. Always make the extra step and check what is the certificate standing for, what is actually certified, and if it's still up to date. And as a last point, such independent certification really provide benefits for all the stakeholders, the regulatory bodies, the manufacturers, the consultants, investors, and end users. So as Eurovent Middle East Industry Association, we try to be impartial, but this is a point where we always recommend, please study, please educate yourself, and please make use of certified products in the market. This is the best way available to avoid bad surprises once the product is bought, once the product is running, with defects, with performances which are not matching standards or which are not matching custom or with the manufacturer's claims. This is a tool which is really useful and valuable for everyone who is concerned about product safety and product performance. Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar with us. I hope you took away that you can take away really interesting aspects of about this topic. We will hope to continue with more in-depth information about this in the coming months and years. I would like to encourage you and invite you, please follow us on LinkedIn. Eurovent Middle East is always announcing all our activities on LinkedIn. Get in touch with us, stay in touch with us, and support us where possible. We're looking forward to many more discussions in a constructive way to bring all stakeholders together to increase and improve everybody's situation when it comes to HVACR products, services, and systems. It remains for me to thank our workshop partners again, Underwriters Laboratory, Eurovent Certita Certification, and of course our media partner, Climate Control Middle East. And that said, on behalf of my colleagues, of my team, and my members of Eurovent Middle East, I would like to thank you again for attending. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hope to see you soon again at one of our next webinars. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.